lovely welcoming music. Thank you. So good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Happy Memorial Day weekend. So my name is Karen Marikas, and it is wonderful to join you for worship today. So UUCLB strives to be a welcoming and inclusive religious community rooted in love, trust, and freedom, and guided by our 8 Unitarian Universalist principles. So welcome to everyone who is new this morning or visiting for the first or second time. If you'd like to raise your hand just so we know who you are and we can come see you after the service. Do we have any? Oh, okay, over here we have one. Anyone else? Okay, well, all right, everyone make a beeline for this woman. No pressure. All right. So for the visitors or newcomers, please stop by the membership table, which is out there after service, to fill out a goldenrod newcomer form, or you can scan the QR code on the order of service so we can follow up with you. And if you are feeling ready to join, we have a new member service, so I'm speaking directly to you, right? So if you feel ready to join, we have a new member service coming up on June 1st, and we'd love to include you. So that is next week, right? Okay. All right, welcome to children. No, it's not next week. Okay, so it's been postponed until the first Sunday in July.
The new member Sunday is next Sunday.
Oh, wait. All right, we'll clear this up after service. All right, so welcome to children, youth, and families. Children and youth are invited to stay in the service with their grown-ups today, or rooms 2 and 3 are open for playtime for infants and toddlers. And please see our website, the monthly advance newsletter and weekly announcements for more information about all of our programs and activities. And then after service, everyone is invited to join us for coffee and conversation. And we'll be out here on the patio. And if you're joining on Zoom, please stay for the virtual coffee hour, where you can chat with others in the congregation. So now is the moment you've all been waiting for. Let's take a brief moment to get up and greet one another. I'm sure you'd all love to talk more, but why don't we wait until after the service? I don't know if anybody heard that.
You got it. Sweet. This section needs some time to settle down.
Okay. There'll be plenty of time to chat afterwards. All right, so we do have a few announcements this morning, but first of all, please take a look at your order of service. There's some announcements on the front and the back. And the first one that I'm going to read is the UUCLB Native Justice Team invites you to stop by their table during coffee hour to learn more about their congressional resolution to support the Friends of Pavanga to protect their sacred site at Cal State Long Beach for cultural and spiritual purposes.
It's a congregational resolution, not congressional.
My mistake. It's a congregational resolution, not a congressional. Yeah. That's a bad mistake right now, right?
Very local.
So after church in the lounge, Chris Kemp and Chris is over there, and then Kristen Blunt from Pastoral Care will be offering a second group focused on peer support in our current political environment. So all are welcome. And let's see, I want to invite Kate. Kate, you can come up over here.
I'm Kate Taylor. I'm co-chair of the membership committee. And thank you. I'm Kate Taylor, co-chair of the membership committee. And on June 8th, we're having a big celebration. We're celebrating all the members who joined during the last year. And we're also celebrating our fabulous community, UUCLB community. So we all hope you can attend. We need help with signing up for salads and fruits, help in the kitchen, and help for setting up and taking down. There will be a table, or there is a table, out on the patio to put your name down and say, I'm bringing it, okay? Thank you. Looking forward to seeing you all.
All right, thank you, Kate. One more announcement. We are thrilled that over 70 members and friends from our congregation marched in the Long Beach Pride Parade last week. And the Pride celebrations and events continue. So now I invite member Alexi Glick to announce the upcoming clothing swap.
Hi, my name is Alexei Glick. My pronouns are they, them. You may have seen one of these little flyers on your seat this morning. We are hosting a trans clothing swap next Saturday, the 31st. All identities and orientations are welcome. Clean out your closet and bring home new to you pieces that are more affirming wherever you are in your journey. We need donations of all kinds and styles, especially women's shoes in larger sizes, men's shoes in smaller sizes, children's wear, lightly worn shapewear, plus-size women's clothing, and men's clothing with shorter inseams in pants in particular. Donations will be accepted in the morning from 10 to 11:30 a.m. on the 31st, and the swap will begin at noon. And if you can't make it on Saturday but you have clothes to donate, just see me after service.
All right, thank you, Alexi. All right, so now I invite you to take a deep breath to center yourself in the worship space as we prepare our hearts for our chalice lighting words, which will be offered by Bonnie Coombs.
I wrote this poem on January 1st, so it's a little bit outdated, but I added more. It's called To Thy Own Self Be True, subtitled flying by my bootstraps. Lately, my mind, overcome by anxiety and stress, has left me hanging there in a shapeless, unimaginable state of fear, wondering who and where in the world am I. Life has flown by. Already I am 81. Wasn't I just 65? And before that, 17? Hope was in the air, not this dismal fear and distress. Life was quite good then, reasonably safe and secure. Today is upside down. No one knows what will happen next. Fires, devastation, homes destroyed, people left homeless has become an ordinary thing. Lives turned upside down, plane crashes, skating star, hopeless children gone. Our mindless president trying to take away whatever security remains. What will happen next? Does anyone know? We meander through each day, hoping for the best. But will there be a best? America used to be the best, I thought. Where has my country gone? Where a convicted felon is the president and religious people are shunned. I fear for our country, for our disappearing values, where we looked out for one another, no matter what color, sex, race, or creed. Is cynicism now the rule and human rights are gone? Is this a country I want to call my own? And truthfully, I have to say no. People are trapped here with nowhere to go, nearly penniless and unique, each to his or her own self be true. I will not give in to the cynicism I feel. I will fight, demonstrate, go to jail, but I will not be untrue. I am who I am. This is the one truth I own. We must win this fight. What is happening is criminal in itself. Our current president is striving to be a dictator, and we cannot let that happen. So fight for the rights of all people. Stand up for the migrants. Stand up for the poor. Stand up for the ones who cannot do more. We must win this battle. We must win this fight. We must remain a country that stands for equality. We must not give in to the ones who do not see, for the ones unable to fight for themselves, for all that be.
As we light this chalice, come, let us worship together.
Welcome, everyone. You ready to do a little singing? All right, let's do it. I invite you to rise in body or in spirit and raise your voices for our first hymn of the morning, For All That Is Our Life. And that's in your gray hymnal, number 128. Let's begin.
For sorrow we must bear, for The title for my reflection is Legacies of Love, the Kind of World We Want to See. First, I want to tell you what Memorial Days were like when I was a kid, then explain the most important legacy my family gave me, and finally talk about how our legacies impact the future of this church. When I was growing up, some people still called Memorial Day Decoration Day, and some people still decorated graves with flowers. Memorial Day was observed on May 30th, no matter what the day of the week that was. And that day, the day was supposed to include praying for peace. I don't remember the praying, but there was a parade. In my early years, there were even some veterans of the Civil War who rode in the parade. I'm really old. They were very young soldiers, too. My family had little relationship to the military. Nevertheless, those holidays were occasions when I first learned to appreciate the sacrifices that some people and their families made, that their legacies of service and sacrifice were responsible for the way I was able to lead my life in peace and security. I've also been the beneficiary of family legacies, and those are not monetary either. My family's legacies has mostly been in the form of the values that they instilled. Despite the fact that I grew up in a family that needed to count every penny, there was a certain generosity that my parents modeled, especially when it came to their church. So when Don and I first joined this church, it felt natural for us to make a pledge right away. But as for the kinds of legacies that come out of estate planning, we did not have a clue. And maybe you can relate to our story. At the time we joined UUCLB, our family's estate planning consisted of a single document, a will, in which we provided for Katie in the event something happened to us both. We call that number one. Over time, our financial future became clearer, brighter, and we thought we really should get all those important documents taken care of. And so we did, just in the nick of time, as it turned out, because less than a month after we signed and initialed everything, Don had the fall that incapacitated him for his remaining years. He was 55 years old. Among other things, one of those papers facilitated my gaining power of attorney without having to drag him in front of a judge. They also contained bequests for other family members, not just Katie. This is number two. Then 3 or 4 years later, I suddenly asked myself, what if Don should outlive me? And I rushed to have the trust and all those papers redone. Number 3. Not long afterward, a couple of years maybe, Don's situation deteriorated suddenly, and a few days later he was gone. His passing was a huge blow. It took 3 or 4 years, 3 years or more for me to realize that our situation had changed profoundly, and new papers, of course, were needed. On to trust number 4, but this time with a heightened sensitivity to legacies beyond the family, because by this time I was part of the church's legacy committee, helping to build the legacy circle, but not eligible to be part of it myself. I realized if there were to be beneficiaries outside of our family members, it had to happen now. Estate plan number 4, which is where we are now. So as the years go by, this church means more to me all the time. Most of you understand when I say, you're my family. While other connections shrink, the ones at UUCLB mostly grow. I like the idea that my bequest, that monetary legacy, will contribute to the continuing life and health of this congregation, particularly to its role of providing a liberal spiritual home for a broad array of beliefs, and to its remaining a strong force for social justice in the world. And that this beloved community will continue to build the kind of world we hope our descendants will inherit for countless generations.
Thank you, Sandy. With those words, I invite you into a time of meditation and prayer. And this is your time in the service to take a deep breath, to really arrive, and to begin to become aware of all you are carrying into this space. All that you have taken in this week, whether that's the news, personally, that you are grappling with, the news of our nation, all of the stories we are carrying into this room. And for us to begin to really set those down, to deeply rest, and to be in the presence of this beloved community. People who are journeying with us each and every Sunday, each and every day, who are here to listen, to offer a caring and open heart. So if you'd like, you can close your eyes or focus on a place that you are finding beauty in the sanctuary, a place within to begin to touch a deeper connection to yourself and to all that is holy. Each time we gather for worship, we set aside a moment to expand the caring ministry of this congregation. Together, we recognize the cycle of life and death, the circle of love, compassion, and witness that is at the center of this sacred community. And we take time to tune into our own sources of love and connection. How often we forget and need to be reminded that we are beloved to ourselves and to each other. God of many names, Spirit of life, and one abundant love, let us enter into this Memorial Day prayer, a time to pray for peace, a time to remember. And I'm going to share this meditation with our worship associate, Karen Marikas, as we continue our time of silence after our words of prayer, and then open our space for joys and sorrows.
This reading is from Reverend Kendall Gibbons. When death comes suddenly, taking just one friend, or in a magnitude beyond our comprehension, in horror and disbelief, we remember. When bright and innocent lives are cut short without warning or mercy, in agony and outrage, we remember. When a long life closes with honor and thankfulness, in reluctant submission and gratitude, we remember. When bereavement and loss seem to be everywhere we turn, taught by tragedy, live on in us to bless the world in love and kinship, we remember. When we come to honor those, I went out of order. When bereavement and loss seem to be everywhere we turn and the world goes dark, in emptiness and pain, we remember. When help and comfort must be given to the afflicted and the work of our hands is needed, In duty and sacrifice, we remember. When arrangements must be made and the severed threads bound up, in ritual and custom, we remember. When it feels that nothing matters and life as it once was seems distant and unreal, in sorrow and numbness, we remember. When grief comes upon us in waves and the helpless heart overflows, in sadness and aching tears, we remember. When words at last become meaningless and the only peace lies inward, in silence and solitude, we remember. When communities come together and the hurt is shared, in mutual comfort and consolation, we remember. When a strain of music or a familiar image brings a gentle, wistful smile, in tenderness and nostalgia, we remember. When the spirit of life beckons us to lift our eyes to all that remains true and good, in dedication and trust, we remember. When the lessons of mutual help and understanding taught by tragedy live on in us to bless the world, in love and kinship, we remember. When we come to honor those we have lost by learning to cherish more dearly those around us, in generosity and gratitude, we remember. Let us now enter into a time of silent meditation and prayer, to mourn, to grieve, and to remember.
From our place of stillness, I invite you to begin to awaken once again to the room and the people we are journeying with this morning. And if you need and want to stay in that place of going within, you are more than welcome to. And I also invite you, if you feel like you want to express yourself and to share with the congregation, that now is your time. And because it is Memorial Day weekend, we are in this process of remembering. And so if you want to name a person or a place or situation that you would like to bring into our collective remembering this morning, I invite you to lift that into the congregation. And as always, I invite people who haven't yet spoken to come and join us, to be given priority to speak if you haven't yet had a chance. And you do not need to be a member to speak. If you would like to, if you're visiting, we invite you to say your name and also to share as well. So I now invite whoever feels called to speak to come forward, and I will also be visiting outside to see if anyone would like to speak outside as well. Please come forward.
Hi, my name is Cynthia, or Michael's mother, and I'm just feeling very blessed, and something great happened to me from this church, and a church member Kelly, gave me a car. I was without a car from September 30th until just about a week ago, and taking a taxi every day to work and back. And thank you, Kelly. And thank you, all the veterans. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Priscilla Ortiz. My husband, Steve Fuller, and I have a joy. Our daughter, who grew up in this church, graduated on Tuesday from Cal State Long Beach. And I'm emotional because she's really, really very bright, but she suffers from anxiety, so it was a difficult 6 years for her. But she did great, and she feels so good about herself, which is wonderful. So sharing with all. Thank you.
Hi, I'm David. I just want to say thank you to everybody that participated in the Gay Pride Parade last Sunday. I woke up late that morning, and so we couldn't find parking near the house. So we had to park all the way in Belmont Shore. And because of my limping, that was extra hard. But I managed better than I thought. And we got to the house, and everybody was already walking to the parade start. And so we sat down outside of the house, and the parade started going, and people were walking by. And for some reason, I just felt inspired. This was my dream. I wanted to propose to my husband. I wanted to propose him to marry me in front of everybody. So I kneeled down in front of him, and I asked him to marry me. And I put a ring in his finger, and I shout, he said yes, he said yes. And so somebody was passing by, and these two guys were walking by, and they were like, oh, they just got engaged, oh my God, and they started crying, and my husband had to ruin it and say like, oh, we're already married, he was just joking. I said, don't ruin it for them. And yesterday we went to a funeral of one of his best friends, and it was a lot of people, and very emotional. I didn't meet her in life, but after all the shares, all the people that say the stories about her, I felt like I knew her for a long time. It was wonderful. And it was all the way in Fullerton, and I was like, I don't want to go to Fullerton, that's practically Orange County. But we went, and it was fun, and that's all I'm going to say. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Pauline. I'm shaking because, first of all, I want to honor my brother, who's a Vietnam veteran and who's with his comrades celebrating their angry skipper was the name, their call name. So he's there with all his comrades today. The other one is a sadness. Friends of my daughter in Canada just lost their 15-year-old daughter to suicide. And her 13-year-old brother found her. And they're just devastated. I'm so sorry.
Hi, my joys and sorrows are basically the usual ones. My joy is that I do have a new fiduciary, but not completely, because the old one who has charged me $4,000 to transfer the funds in December, paid himself in advance, has lost an entire account of approximately half of my trust, and maybe other elderly and disabled folks' trusts as well. I want to thank all of the vets, and I would like to remember my mother and Bertha Poole. And I'm very grateful I'm not living out of my car.
Thank you.
I'm Linnell Wise, and I'm thinking of my dad, who was a commander in the Navy. He was in World War II, and he was gone. Well, he was in the reserves for a whole bunch of years also, so he was gone 2 weeks a year and lots of other times. And I'm especially thinking of my mother, who, as a military wife, kept us 5 kids all together from not killing each other and being happy. And it's not an easy job. Thank you.
Kelly and Lindsay. Okay, sure.
I'll be quick. Hi. Y'all know me. My name is Lindsay. And my joy is that tomorrow I'll be turning 39. And thank you. My joy mixed with sorrow is that tomorrow is also the 10th anniversary of the passing of my grandma, my abuelita, who taught me how to knit and crochet. So when you see me crocheting and knitting, that is my memorial to my grandmother. So that's all.
Happy birthday.
Good morning. My name is Kelly, and my joy is on May 18th was my father's birthday, and he would have been 78 years old. My dad was an ocean lifeguard here in Long Beach for over 30 years, and he retired as the captain of the Long Beach rescue boats. And so I can understand how your family and friends, Pauline, are feeling in Canada, because I too lost my dad to suicide. So my dad used a gun and made it to the hospital alive at Long Beach Memorial, and I was called to the hospital in the trauma room. And then I stayed with my dad until he passed. And so Long Beach has been a very, very hard place for me to be in for the last 10 plus years. And I was an ocean lifeguard here in Seal Beach, and I wanted nothing to do with the ocean. And I wanted to go to the mountains and far, far away and be with trees. And so I'm celebrating that I'm able to return back to Long Beach and back to the ocean. And yesterday with Michael, we had the experience to go to the Colorado Lagoon and swim with the moon jellies. And then I got a tattoo of a Opihi shell just in honor of my dad. And so that's my joy. And then a sorrow is, I don't know if a lot of you know, there's a young firefighter named Connor Lees. He was on the news, and it was about in December, and he was a firefighter and a Seal Beach lifeguard, and he went in the evening to go lobster diving, and he descended, and his light was on him, and he got stuck in a cave. And so his family in Seal Beach for many, many months, every single night went to the ocean because he was, they just said he'd gone missing. And so, I don't know, maybe like a month ago, he was found, and he was found in a cave where he descended 8 feet deep in a cave, and his mom had gotten a tattoo of a heart, and the heart was open left as a wave, so that her prayer was that he would surface. And so he surfaced, and they're able to grieve. And Michael, who sings in the choir, we went to his home where he grew up in Seal Beach on Friday night, and he has a brother named Trevor who struggles with mental health and schizophrenia, and he was lonely, and so we spent the evening with him. And I just want to say, I think, especially with so much mental health, is that people really, really, really just need someone to just sit with them, maybe not even say anything or listen to music with them or share pizza. And so anyways, I'm just really grateful, and I'm grateful for this congregation, so thank you.
Thank you. Just going to go outside and see if anyone would like to share. Anybody like to share? All right. Hi. Can I invite you to come to the front to share?
Hi, I am new here. My name is Megan. It's been a really mixed bag for my family this week. My cousin, who my father kind of helped raise when he was in high school, Lima, she's now in palliative care in the hospital. She just turned 50, actually. So unfortunately, it's looking like she's going to pass. And then on the other hand, my mom just got approved for a heart transplant. So just very whirlwind of emotions this week. So thank you.
Let us all just take a few deep breaths together to let all of the life and death mingle together. And we have one more share.
Hello, my name is Donna. My aunt passed away this week, and so I flew out to the services and then came right back to go to commencement. And then my mom passed away a year and a half ago. So out of like the 5 sisters and 2 brothers they had, there's 2 left. So it's kind of unreal. And I guess the joy is that, especially for my mom, I got to have her as a mom at all. So.
Remembering together is an act of collective grieving. And everyone naming their grief and their memories allows us all to name our own memories. And so let's just take a minute to go within, taking another deep breath, maybe placing a hand on our heart to see what names emerge that we want to honor, what stories we are carrying, and see if we might be able to name those to ourselves and maybe to another person who could witness to us, who could, as Kelly said, just sit with us and patiently listen. To open our hearts to one another and to share our common humanity. Taking another deep breath, let's acknowledge that this time of sharing has ended and we share in another way, which is through our generosity. And so we're going to transition to our offering words this morning.
We know that our financial contributions to this congregation come from sacrifice and hard work. We are so grateful for this and commit together to ensure the funds we gather collectively do a greater good for ourselves and our world than they could have done alone. May there be an offering to sustain and grow the life and mission of this congregation. We dedicate these gifts given freely and gratefully received to our shared work, shaping a better world for all, and to spread its vision and its values far beyond these 4 walls. The information for giving can be found on your order of service and on the screen. May the ushers come forward.
So like Sandy, growing up, Memorial Day weekend was always about going to the cemeteries. And we often gathered together on this weekend in Maine. That's where most of my mother's family lives. and she lives now. And we celebrated a lot of birthdays and celebrated our ancestors and those who had died at the same time. Today is my mother's birthday, and her father, Winfield, or Windy, as we call them, my grandparents were named Winnie and Wendy, which was like extremely cute. Winnie and Wendy. Wendy was born on May 28th, which is now my husband's birthday. So Wendy has passed and is with Winnie in this beautiful cemetery. But we can now remember Wendy every time we have Sam's birthday as well. I just want to name that there were some comments on the chat that came through that I just want to lift up as we're bringing in all these memories. I don't want to leave anyone out. Daryl Tucker shared that 3 people he knows have died within the past few weeks, and that's his sorrow. And his joy is that his oldest son just finished his 2nd year of college. So we're lifting up those joys and sorrows with Daryl. So though I'm far away from Maine this morning, pretty much as far as you can get over here, and I talked to my mom this morning, and she's like, it's 40 degrees, and there's a nor'easter this morning. Right, I'm with you, Irene. It's like, I'm glad we live here, but I do miss it so much. And in my mind's eye, I can see this cemetery so clearly. It's in Yarmouth, Maine. And anyone who's ever been to that part of the world knows that it's like a kind of seaside. It's a big marina. And then the cemetery was up on the hill, kind of overlooking the marina, and surrounded by shady trees and open fields. And the headstone that they had selected for my grandparents was very simple. It's like the Maine way, not adorned. It has a pine tree motif on it, and the lyrics from our UU hymn, I'll Bring You Hope. Do you know that one? Some people know that one. It's a tune we really love in this church. And it says, we'll bring you a song of love and a rose in the wintertime on their grave. And so that always makes me really emotional whenever I go visit it, and singing that song is so meaningful to me. And my mom would bring a trowel and her gardening gloves and a few pots of bright red geraniums to the graveside. And all of the winter weeds would be cleared out. All of even the wildflowers that maybe were growing up. No dandelions allowed on the grave. And the grave just began to shine a little bit with the care and those bright red geraniums. And those weekends were filled with family memories and sharing food and stories of older generations to younger generations. And I'm sure you have your own memories and your own family gatherings, maybe around this time of year, where you are both honoring your own loved ones and joining in this collective grieving with our nation and our history. And for my family, it was really deeply rooted in the state of Maine. Like, they are very proud Mainers. And as you know, Maine has always been a union state, and they are very proud of that history as well. Our nation is filled with stories, memories upon memories. And when each year we come to this day called Memorial Day, our own family memories weave into the fabric of our American history. The planting of the flowers at the cemetery, this tradition honoring our dead, bringing dignity and beauty to the resting place of our ancestors. And that story of Memorial Day is actually worth retelling again and again, one of those stories to be passed on from generation to generation. Not just why we plant the flowers, but what is that all about? What are those rituals, not just the start of summer and the barbecues, but something more meaningful? And as Sandy pointed out, Memorial Day began as Decoration Day, that act of decorating the graves, a day to honor the dead. And just as we do today, but thinking about the Civil War and the over 620,000 people who died in the Civil War. 620,000 people, 60,000 on the Union side, 60% on the Union side and 40% on the Confederate side of things. So the enormity of this mass death on American soil, here, not anywhere else, but here, that's still hard for us to grapple with. David Blight, who's the author of Race and Reunion, The Civil War in American History, writes, "The most immediate legacy of the war was its slaughter and how to remember it. Death on such a scale demanded meaning." So the war began with bombardment of the Union-held Fort Sumter in Charleston, South Carolina, in April of 1861. And I'm going to come out to everyone that I was actually born in South Carolina. And my parents were both in school at the university there. They met at the university in South Carolina. And so thinking about South Carolina for me is meaningful, and it's meaningful for us today. South Carolina still, by the way, celebrates Confederate Memorial Day and does not recognize our National Memorial Day that we are celebrating currently. So after the war ended in February of 1865, meaning-making was necessary for this community of Charleston where the war began, the origins. And for the Black community in Charleston, the joy of emancipation was met with the reality of death and destruction. Mainly, they needed a place to bury their dead. And they needed a place to honor their grieving. And there were not cemeteries. There were not these beautiful, carved out, park-like cemeteries that we think of today to go and pay your respects. They were actually laid in makeshift graves. And many Union soldiers remained unidentified, that family members could not even go find their loved one and know that their body had been laid to rest. So to show their respect for the dead and their service to the cause of emancipation, let's not forget what the Civil War was about, the end of slavery. Members of the Charleston community began informal ceremonial practices where women would create these makeshift graves and adorn them with fragrant lilacs and roses, planting beautiful flowers in these spaces of grieving and loss. So that first Decoration Day was held officially on May 1st, 1865, and it was an elaborate affair. It's known that it was coordinated by an estimated 10,000 people, Black South Carolinians and white Union soldiers, and a formal burial ground was designated for the dead. And local ministers led remembrances for those killed, those named and unnamed, searching for the meaning of the war and returning to the cause of freedom that needed to continue. They sung John Brown's Body and read scriptures like, "Blessed are those who mourn, for they should be comforted. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the sons and daughters of God." So Decoration Day became known as Memorial Day later in the 1800s. And in its early years of observation, Southerners and Northerners were still divided about its meaning and its purpose and intention, as white Southerners contested the message of reconciliation and Union victory. And an alternative Confederate Memorial Day, as I said, is still a holiday that is celebrated in North Carolina and South Carolina. And Confederate Memorial Day is still observed in Texas, Mississippi, and Alabama. And it's observed not on May 28th or 30th, but on May 10th, which is recognized as the anniversary of Confederate General Thomas Jonathan Stonewall Jackson's death and the capture of Jefferson Davis. So telling these stories of Memorial Day's origins are so important as we witness to these blatantly racist attempts to undermine and rewrite our history. Let's remember what this history is, this Memorial Day that we are celebrating. I never thought that would be necessarily controversial. But here we are. Here we are. What is Memorial Day really about? Remembering, collective grief, racial healing, and national unity after a horrific tragedy, and a desperate call for peace in a world of endless war. In 1950, President Truman issued the following proclamation, and this is probably Sandy's time because President Truman designated May 30th as Memorial Day with an hour of prayer to be held at 11 a.m., prayer for permanent peace. Listen to his words. He said, since war is the world's most terrible scourge, we should do all in our power to prevent its reoccurrence. It was the hope of mankind that with the cessation of hostilities of World War II, the way would be open to founding a permanent peace. Instead, that war has left the world in a state of continued unrest. Accordingly, we feel the need of turning in humble suppliance to Almighty God for help and guidance. And so he called upon Congress in joint resolution that Memorial Day, which has long been set aside for paying tribute to those who lost their lives in war, shall be henceforth dedicated as a day for nationwide prayer for permanent peace. The Congress has also requested that the President issue a proclamation calling upon the people to observe Memorial Day in that manner. A prayer for permanent peace. A declaration that war is the most terrible scourge upon humankind. And today, in this weekend, we observe Memorial Day in a world that is ravaged by war, with an administration willfully determined to escalate, to militarize, and to expand empire at any cost. Even worse, we observe this Memorial Day with a nation that cannot even agree with Truman's assertion of war's catastrophic and devastating consequences for humankind. How have we gotten to a place where we can't agree that war is horrible for humankind? In fact, our government has doubled down on its repression of free speech and criminalizing peaceful assembly in protest to America's complicitness in global conflicts, namely Israel's war on Gaza. Now, Israel's undeniable genocide is unfolding. It's right before our eyes. It's so painful. And we cannot agree upon the reality that we are seeing and call it morally wrong. The cries for peace and a permanent ceasefire, that permanent peace, those cries are being ignored. They're falling on deaf ears. They are being criminalized and punished. And this repression of speech is creating a pressure cooker of political volatility and emerging violence. And we can see that this week in the horrific murders of two Jewish diplomats, Yaron Lashinsky and Sarah Milgram, who were killed this week in D.C. after leaving an American Jewish Committee interfaith meeting, celebration with young activists and diplomats of multiple different faiths who were coming to celebrate the possibilities for peace in the midst of this intractable conflict and crisis. And we know now that these two young people were killed by an American activist for Palestinian freedom, and they were targeted for being Jewish. And so we have to say really clearly, really clearly, that this is a deplorable act of murder that is never justifiable in any circumstances. And this only furthers the depth of this painful crisis and how far yet we have to go to any kind of peaceful resolution. This act of violence crossed the line of protest and speech, which we will defend, but we cannot defend anti-Semitism that manifests in a hate crime. We simply cannot. So the way that we can today in this Memorial Day gathering to honor that intention is to actually look at the lives that these diplomats led and that they had dedicated their lives to peacemaking. A piece from the New York Times by Moroccan essayist Yasmina Asrarguis recounts Sarah Milgram's legacy of peace building this way. She said, in a world flooded with empty slogans and online posturing, Sarah Milgram was something far rarer, a quiet peace builder. She didn't seek headlines, she sought dialogue. Just a few years out of college, she was already known for her engagement with organizations that brought together Christians and Jews and Muslims, Israelis and Palestinians. Her final master's degree research project was on the role of cross-cultural friendships in peace building. I learned, she said, that Sarah was committed to a concept known as the third narrative. It's a vision that seeks to rise above the noise of vengeance and violence by focusing instead on shared humanity and the mutual right to dignity, safety, and peace for Jews and Muslims. This effort is more than dialogue, it's a deliberate stand against polarization. And Sarah believed in creating a space for people to look for solutions. We will never know if our world could have been different as a result of Sarah and Yaron's peace building. Their yearning for another world that could emerge from the devastation and the crisis that we find ourselves in. But we do know that turning back to our history, to our rituals, we insist upon another story, that we carry forward that vision for peace and unity and reconciliation, and that is the story we will carry forward. And so may Sarah's memory be a blessing to generations to come. And may we live in such a way that our lives bless the world far beyond our deaths. Amen, and blessed be. Thank you for your patient and kind attention this morning. As we turn to our singing again, we will rise in body or spirit for our final hymn of the morning, Just As Long As I Have Breath. It's number 6, and we invite you to join in singing.
I must answer
We have reached the close of this service, but our connections continue throughout the week. Thank you for your presence and participations in this Sunday service. Thank you also to all of our staff and volunteers who make our worship service possible each Sunday. We appreciate you so much. So our benediction is from the poem When Death Comes by Mary Oliver. When death comes like the hungry bear in autumn, when death comes and takes all the bright coins from his purse to buy me and snaps the purse shut, I want to step through the door full of curiosity, wondering, what is it going to be like, that cottage of darkness? And therefore I look upon everything as a brotherhood and a sisterhood, and I look upon time as no more than an idea, and I consider eternity as another possibility. And I think of each life as a flower, as common as a field daisy, and as singular, and each name a comfortable music in the mouth, tending, as all music does, towards silence, and each body a lion of courage and something precious to the earth. When it's over, I want to say, all my life I was a bride married to amazement. I was the bridegroom taking the world into my arms. When it's over, I don't want to wonder if I have made of my life something particular and real. I don't want to find myself sighing and frightened or full of argument. I don't want to end up by simply having visited this world. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of love, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.